BXB. It's in the game!
Another day, another dollar, another day, another roguelike. Another game with permadeath and, randomly generated and seeded dungeons. And that brings us to Brutal. I'm just going to call it Brutal because that's a silly way of spelling that word. But that's okay because this game has an interesting style. It's heavily inspired by ASCII games from way, way, way back. But they're not the ASCII games you remember. The 2D, simplistic... I don't know how you describe them, but if you've seen ASCII, you know what I'm talking about. You might not have seen ASCII stuff because you might not be in your 40s, and that's fair enough. I'm barely aware myself, and I'm in my 30s, but hey, there you go. Basically, Brutal is a roguelike dungeon crawler experience with permadeath that has this very interesting art style, and it's curious because in the same breath almost as me reviewing Hyper Light Drifter, I'm reviewing this as well. And in many ways, they're very similar. They're hack and slash roguelike experiences with distinctive art styles. Now, for me, I'd say the art style on display in Hyper Light Drifter with its perspective is a little bit more compelling. I think this is a fun gimmick, at least to start with. I love the high contrast environments. I love the way it looks to a degree, but after a short time it starts to become, just another fantasy style RPG with permadeath. I actually found the game in many respects, in the combat, in the upgrading stuff, that was kind of easy, but what I found was very harsh is that you fall off a cliff once, that was it, game over, end of the run. If you fall off the level, that's it, it's just over, which is pretty punishing. Especially when you get into the later dungeons. And there are many levels to the dungeon. You play as one of 4 classes, warrior, ranger, amazon, or wizard, and each of them have different movement and attack abilities and speed and stuff like that. And you go around and you pick up stuff and you pick up collectibles, which mean you can build new weapons from the ASCII text letters that you can collect. Which is a fun kind of idea, I suppose. They do go for it, actually, in this style and this presentation, this kind of love of the ASCII. It's certainly unique. And let's talk about the combat. I mean, the actual feeling of the hack and slash, of the monsters, of the different types of weapons, of the armor upgrades, all of that feels really good. I like the speed, particularly of the ranger, in combination with the weapons. I really like how those play. Yeah, it's a perfectly good brawler. It doesn't have a lot to report on because I think, unlike, say, the Hyper Light Drifter, it's not... And I am comparing it a lot to that, which is perhaps a little unfair, but it's because I've just played that extensively as well. It's fresh in the mind, as it were. This, of course, is only available on PS4, not PS Vita. That would be really strange. Unlike Hyper Light Drifter, which is on all the platforms. This game just didn't grab me as much for whatever reason. Like I said, it's competent, it works, it plays well. I like the fact that you've got co-op options. You've got a dungeon designing option, which is fun. They give you these tools to create different experiences. You've got leaderboards. There's plenty of game in here, and it is undeniably a good hack and slash. It just doesn't do anything to really stand out. I mean, I get a little tired of the shoehorning of these roguelike stuff into every game now. This obsession with let's make these games punishingly hard because it's kind of just cool. And, Hyper Light Drift does also, of course, suffer from that problem, though I think perhaps a little less. I think we've also got to this point with the development tools. This is using Unity, I believe, to make this. That you can make a good-looking game with a small team, with a relatively low budget, quite easily now. Especially if it's a 3D game. So because of that, the fact that they've used this ASCII skin does make Brutal unique. But at the same time, when you can just in your head transpose this with any visual style. If it was just a regular sort of cel-shaded slash 'em up, it wouldn't make any difference. None at all. I mean, the collectibles are custom to the ASCII environment, but it could be anything, gems, runes, you can make it anything you want. It really is quite interchangeable in that regard, as are the monsters, as are the creatures, and like I said, it works, it plays well, it's amusing, there's no story, there's plenty of game, there's some co-op, which is fun to do, and there's also the dungeon creation mode, which is fun, if something I'll barely ever touch, because that's just not the kind of gamer I am, but hey, you can't fault what's here. And because of that, I give Brutal 3 out of 5 stars.
BXB. It's in the game!